So team, I have a bit of a confession to make regarding the theme for today's setup. Back when Rachel suggested this theme of bubble tea for her April setup, I was like, oh yeah, okay, that's a theme that people have done before. It should be pretty easy to execute, should be pretty cute, but didn't really give it much consideration outside of that. Fast forward to me actually setting this up though, and I don't know how, somehow Rachel has managed to convert me into a bubble tea addict. So then when I saw that this was the theme that we picked out for the April setup, I was apocalyptically excited. I still am. I think that this is so freaking cute, and I'm really glad she picked it. Outside of the setup though, my bubble tea addiction is slowly becoming more of a problem. Bubble teas aren't that cheap, but they are really tasty, and I am so tempted to set myself up a bubble tea tracker in my journal so I can track the different bubble teas I'm getting and the flavors and from which places and my tasting notes, like what I like about them. That's not what we're doing in today's setup though. As you can tell, we are setting up April in Rachel's bullet journal, and here we're starting with a quote page. I did try and find some bubble tea related quotes for this one that would be appropriate for the setup we're doing, and while there were quite a few that I could have picked from, when I came across this one, I thought that the doodle was super cute, but instead of doing the quote that they did, I thought it would be nice to kind of pretend that the bubble teas were Rachel and I, and we can be besties. Or besties. Bad pun, but I still think it's cute. Of course, Rachel is a tower. She's, what, 5'10" or something, and I'm 5'3", so naturally I am the little bubble tea, and she is the taller bubble tea. And we're just hugging it out, enjoying our best bubble tea life. All of this talk of bubble tea, I really want one now. Oh, problematic. During the actual setup, I was totally fine because obviously the decoration we're doing here is quite stylized, which made it really simple to draw in, which was nice. But now as I'm talking about it, I really want a bubble tea. My personal favourite bubble tea is Granny Apple Green Tea with passion fruit popping bubbles, which of course was Rachel's order that I just copied, and now I'm like totally in love with it. But I have also enjoyed brown sugar milk teas and matcha ones. In terms of the colour palette that we're going for today, we're using 4 different colours of Tombow Gel Brush Marker. The numbers for those are linked in the description box. But we've got the pale green to represent our green apple tea, the light brown to represent our brown sugar tea, the kind of yellow-orange colour to represent a mango or passion fruit one, and then the pink one to probably represent strawberry. Not that I've tried a strawberry one before. Along with our bubble tea doodles, another element that I used to decorate all of the pages of this setup were the little dots or the little circles that we have around the outside of the page. Some of these were done with those Tombow colours we mentioned before, while for some smaller ones I just used my pet artist pen. In terms of timing, this quote page took about 17 minutes from first touch of the pen to final erasings. But as usual, that doesn't include sketching in time or idea generation time. Onto the right hand side of the spread, and we're getting started on the cover page. I wanted to make sure that this one tied together nicely with the quote page, so the format of this one is very similar. The box with the bubble tea doodles on the corners and along the edges, the dots around the outside, and then a bigger bubble tea in the middle. Looking back at this one, I don't think I ever remembered to colour in his arm, so I should probably go do that before I give Rachel her journal back. But you can see on this one we just have a solo bubble tea with a little winky face. Now, it's probably a good time to talk about the white elephant in the room, or should I say the white background that we have here. I got a new desk. Of course, if this is your first video you're seeing from me, first of all, welcome, it's a pleasure to have you here. And you probably wouldn't know that my desk colour changed, but we will not be seeing very much of that dark brown desk anymore. Really, we'll only be seeing it for a couple of more setups in the giveaway journal that we gave away in December, because all of the setups in that one were done before I got my new desk. Going from a dark brown desk to a white desk is quite a change for me, both in terms of just the way my office feels and also for my filming. So it might take me a couple of videos to get used to how the lighting works in this new setup. Considering the little bubble tea doodles that we have for the decoration in this setup, these ones are super easy to draw. Effectively, all you have to do is draw out a rectangle, or technically a trapezoid where you've got like a slightly shorter edge along the bottom and a slightly longer one along the top, just to mimic the shape of a glass. From here you fill in the glass with colour. I decided to leave a little bit of space at the top so you could kind of get the impression of it being filled with a liquid. Draw in a little black line for the straw, and then some little black dots at the bottom for the pearls. These ones are a quick but cute decorative element, meaning the cover page here only took 14 minutes from first touch of the pen. Honestly, the thing that was probably most time consuming about this setup, as an individual element, was the outlining of the headers. But as I typically do, I like to use the same style of lettering throughout the entire of the setup, just to help the pages tie together better. Flipping over though, as can be expected, we are now on to the monthly log. And again, we're going with that same style of having the mini calendar in the top left, the list view of the days of the month in the bottom left, and then the entire right-hand page is left open for a monthly task list. Essentially, the way the calendar on this one can get used is that you can put little icons in the mini calendar, either that represent something themselves, so for instance maybe a $sign for payday, a little recycling symbol for the day that the bin needs to go out, that kind of stuff, or having a signifier in the mini calendar that indicates that there's an event written in the list view at the bottom. This just gives you a nice compact view of your events for the month. So still having enough space to write out your events for the month, while also having that visual of the calendar view, but not having the calendar span across both pages of the spread. To make sure that the monthly log tied in with the rest of the setup, we again used the same style of lettering, the same colour palette, and more of those little bubble tea doodles. So while my current obsession is bubble tea, I'd be very curious to hear about any obsessions that you guys have recently. Anything that you've been finding yourself very into. It could be a drink, or a food, or really just anything that you're really into. For instance, there was a period of time that I got really into watching those, I think they were Brad Mondo videos, where he was watching people try to give themselves haircuts and just like reacting to them. I don't even know why, I just got really into them. I've been meaning to populate my list of things to check out in my journal, which is looking woefully barren. So I'd be curious to hear about anything you guys are into at the moment, to see if there's anything I should be checking out. I've heard a few people mention Euphoria at the moment. I have absolutely no idea what that is. Pretty sure Bridgerton season 2 is out. I haven't seen Bridgerton season 1. I always get kind of bummed when I miss out on these things. It's like when people were like really into Tiger King and I just didn't watch it, and now I feel like there's absolutely no point because the hype is over. I was glad that I saw Squid Game when I did though, because then at least I saw it when everybody was talking about it, so things made sense. Anywho, I'd just be curious to hear about what you guys are into right now, so feel free to let me know in the comments. In terms of timing, our monthly log took about 17 minutes from first touch of the pen to final erasings, and then it is over the page and onto our weekly spread. As per all of the weekly spreads in Rachel's journal, we have the section on the left-hand side, which has those horizontal spaces for each day of the week, and then the page on the right is left open for a task list. As can be expected, the decoration that we're using on this one is again those bubble tea doodles, so having a little bubble tea glass for each day of the week, and then beside those I just end up writing in the initials for each day of the week and the number for the day. Because April starts on a Friday, so we have Friday, Saturday and Sunday being the first 3 days of April, the weekly spread that contains those days is actually found in March. When I organise the pages of my journals, I typically like to have it so that for any week that's split between 2 months, I put the weekly in whichever month has the most days. So for the March-April changeover, because we have 4 days in March, and then 3 days in April, that weekly is found in the pages for March. Similarly, at the end of April, where we have 1 day in May, and 6 days in April, I'll put that weekly with our April pages. I used to be very big on the idea of any daily logging that I did, or task list making that I did, was found within the pages for that month. So instead of doing full weeklies at the end of a month, in particular for months where you have some days in one month and some days in another, instead of making the full weekly spread with 7 days, I'd make part weekly spreads. So I might have a layout that only has 3 days, or a layout that only has 6. I'd be curious to know how you guys do it. Do you like to have all of the days for any month housed within the pages of that month? Or do you do a similar thing to like we're doing here with this journal, where you put the weekly spread with whichever month has the most days for that week? In terms of the time taken for our weekly spreads though, these were each about 11 minutes from first touch of the pen to final erasings. So given that we set up 4 of them, a combined total of 44 minutes. Heading into our final flip through though, we have our quote page with our 2 little hugging bubble teas, our cover page with our 1 little winky bubble tea, the monthly log that has the vertical style and the mini calendar, and then the task list on the right hand side, and then our weekly logs that have the days broken down on the left and the task lists on the right. I think that this bubble tea theme is so freaking cute, and I'm very jealous that Rachel gets to have it in her journal this month and I don't get to. I'm sure I'm gonna end up doing a bubble tea theme for myself one time because it's so dang cute. Give this video a like if you think that the bubble tea theme is cute too. If you are still looking for more April bullet journal inspiration, do be sure to check out the playlist that I have on the screen here. Otherwise, team, thank you for watching, and until next time, bye!